this, and is it working? Oh, that's okay. Right, the Buddha knew about this and sent Manjusri Bodhisattva to bring Ananda back. And upon seeing the Buddha, Ananda paid his respects and wept, regretting the beginningless cycle of existence and seeking guidance in the practice of contemplation.
So he asked the Buddha that how can he has a better stability that not be affected by 定力。哦，对不对？讲中文我忘记了。然后他就问那个佛说，他就要佛教他止观的方法，因为止观方法可以让他有定力。结果佛并没有马上跟他讲止观的方法，而是先去让他弄清楚什么是真心，什么是妄心。那今天呢，我们的这个法师要给我们讲的，先从他的袋子那个录影带里面呢，给我们把他的分析的很细，然后先从看一个袋子里面呢，袋子题目叫霓虹灯啊，那样来。OK，所以我们等一会儿先看袋子。
So Ananda asked the Buddha to teach the method of contemplation, but the Buddha didn't immediately teach him the method. Instead, he understood two things. That is, what is erroneous mind or deluded mind. I'll be using these two words changeably. So deluded mind and what is true mind. And later, Fa will show us a video that addresses this question. So we'll begin with the video.
The slide, Alan. Didn't we get it all prepared? We did. And it disappeared. Okay, today's because it's bilingual, we're gonna play the English version first, and then we're gonna play the Chinese version. So the Chinese who are bilingual get to hear it twice, and then we'll start with a question. Okay, question with them, Venerable. Well, you're already sharing. YouTube, in order to get a big screen, it has commercials, so please bear with us.
At the Dharma Center today, I can ask Fa Shi questions about Chan practice.
You might stay here.
Where did you come from just now? Do you remember the journey?
Yeah, I just came from my office, and I ran into some traffic along the way.
When you recall getting here, is the person in the trip you?
Yes? Why do you ask?
If the images of you on the trip are you, who is answering the question now?
It's also me.
Then there are two of you at the same time, the you appearing in your mind and the you answering my questions. Which one is the real you then?
One is the me in the past, and one is the me in the present. Both are me. Fasha, your questions are so strange. I'm confused now.
If you think the images of you in the trip are also you, they disappeared. Well, you haven't. Don't you find it strange?
What you say seems logical, but I still don't quite understand.
Fasha, isn't there a causal connection between the past me and who I am now? It sounds like you were saying that the past self is not the real self, while my real self is the present one. Isn't that negating the past? Could you please elaborate?
As we mentioned, moment to moment we habitually think that what has disappeared still exists. This is called considering what moves as the body, recognizing objects as the self. We take various phenomena created by the mind as the self, grasping them even after they've disappeared. This is exactly the root of vexations. Now I'll give you an analogy using a neon fan. This is how a neon fan works, which illustrates the idea of no self. This neon fan has only two blades, with small light bulbs attached to them. Look, when these two blades are turning quickly, a circle appears, with the numbers 1 to 12, a long hand, a short hand, and a second hand. Thus a clock appears. Sutras use the analogy of the wheel created by spinning a burning incense stick, which can be now shown with modern technology. So what does it tell us? Actually, there is no clock. The appearance of a clock is due to images rapidly arising and perishing. When spinning slowly, the clock may not appear stable, but if the neon fan turns 100 times faster, we'll feel as if there is a fixed clock there. The motor of this fan only turns about 10 to 30 times per second, which is already enough to create an optical illusion. If one turning is equal to one act of arising and perishing, how many do you think are happening in the mind per second?
No idea.
In the preface of the Anapanasati Sutra, it says that in the snap of a finger, there are 960 times of arising and perishing occurring in the mind. Alternately, the Humane King Sutra says there are 900 occurrences of arising and perishing in a single instant, 90 instants in a single thought. Supposing that there are 4 thoughts in a second, that makes 324,000 occurrences of arising and perishing in a second. Even more incredible, the Sutra of the Bodhisattvas dwelling in the womb says there are 3.2 billion hundreds of thousands of thoughts in the snap of a finger. Regardless of what these numbers are, the point is, what is our mind developed into with such rapid arising and perishing? The answer can be found in the Shurangama Sutra. The sutra says sentient beings do not realize that everything, from the physical body to the external mountains, rivers, empty spaces and earth, are all within the wondrous, illuminating true mind. That is, these apparently real bodies, mountains, rivers, spaces in the world, all are phenomena created by the wondrous, illuminating true mind. But the mind moves so rapidly, granting the illusion that the mountains, rivers, world, our body and sentient beings are so real and static. You see, if tens of cycles of arising and perishing can create a clock, it's no surprise that 1 trillion cycles can create empty space, mountains, rivers, the world, and sentient beings. This analogy illustrates that everything is created by the mind. Therefore, we say that our mind encompasses the universe. We tend to think that we exist in the universe, but in fact, the universe is within our mind.
You mentioned earlier the notion of recognizing objects as the self. What does this have to do with the neon fan?
Let's see. The mind creates empty space, mountains, rivers, and the world, cities, sentient beings. But we have erroneous views and grasp a tiny portion of the phenomena as the self, believing that the mind is hidden inside the body. Thus, we view everything from this perspective of self, making ourselves more narrow-minded. Our mind originally encompasses the universe, then becomes a deluded mind trapped within our body. This deluded mind constitutes our consciousness mind, the root of vexations.
What does this have to do with the fact that the past self has already disappeared, as you mentioned?
Consider what moves as our body in recognizing objects as the self. Take how the neon fan creates a clock. Within the clock as a whole, we take that tiny second hand as the self. The tiny second hand moves and revolves inside the big clock in a way similar to how the small self moves in the world of space. In this way, we continue to mistake the moving second hand as a singular, identical second hand. In fact, the self that we perceive as being solid and real is an illusion. There is no self in all phenomena. One of the 3 Dharma seals can also be analogous to this neon fan. The bulbs of the first second light up and go off. Then the bulbs of the next second light up and go off. Then the third. This cycle goes on and on. There isn't a real second hand that goes from the first second to the second second, then to the third. In other words, there isn't any physical second hand moving in the clock. That is, there is the appearance of continuous arising and perishing of phenomena, but there is no entity that travels amidst these phenomena. This entity is what we always believe to be our substantial self. In fact, there are only ever-changing phenomena that continually arise and perish. So continuous phenomena as a result of sequential causality do exist and have happened, but they immediately disappear the moment they arise. But we are always grasping all the time, thinking that they still exist. So the point here is that phenomena do exist, but there is no single entity which is the self. For example, in our experience, when I take 2 steps from left to right, we'll think that there is a person moving from left to right, but in reality there is only continuous arising and perishing of phenomena, and there isn't a constant entity.
Oh, so earlier when you asked me which is the real self, the one coming from the office or the one answering questions, what's the answer?
The reason I used the metaphor of a neon fan was for you to carefully observe and contemplate. As much as phenomena arise and perish, what gives rise to phenomena? This is for you to contemplate. Whenever you take past experiences and memories as self, practice letting it go quickly. Whether ordinary, painful, or unpleasant, let it go like a bird flying through the sky, leaving no traces behind. But what is it that can continuously give rise to phenomena and that possesses limitless functions? Lastly, you can use silent illumination or huato and investigate Chan through Buddha name recitation. It would be of no use to you if I simply give you the answer. The answer is in you, and it can only be revealed by yourself.
Continuous existence of life in a being changes at every point in time. It seems to be of one unified entity, but in fact it is a manifestation of consciousness, which is affected by various karmic forces. As long as the body and mind continue to generate activities, the content of consciousness, being affected by karmic forces, will also continue to change. As long as there is still attachment to the notion of self, consciousness appears, which is subject to karmic forces. Only when realizing no self, which means that one is no longer affected nor confused by various vexations such as greed, anger, and ignorance, can the influence from karmic forces cease to exist. At this point, consciousness, which previously acted as the main entity of life in a being, no longer exists either. This is called turning consciousness to wisdom, which is also the transformation from an ordinary person to a sage.
Losing is for losers. And with the Athletics fantasy football coverage, I stopped doing that. And so can
请教一些禅修的问题。
你刚刚从哪里来呀？过程还记得吗？
记得我刚刚从办公室来，途中还遇到塞车。
现在想到过程中的那个人是你吗？
是啊，法师为什么这么问？
如果过程中那些是你，那现在回答的这个是谁？
也是我呀。
那么同一时间有2个你，一个是脑海中浮现的，一个是回答的，哪个才是真正的你？
一个是刚刚的，一个是现在的，2个都是我呀。法师问得很奇怪，让我又更不懂了。
如果你认为过程中的那些也是你，那些已经都消失了，但是你却没有消失，你不觉得奇怪吗？
法师，听起来好像有道理，可是又有些不太懂。
法师，我们这个我不是有前后的因果关系吗？法师这样问，好像过去的不是我，现在这个是我，那不是否定过去吗？所以能请法师多解释一些吗？
刚刚讲消失的认为还在，这每分每秒一直在运用的习惯性认知，叫做以动为身，任务为己，把新产生的各种现象认为是自己，消失了呢，却还一直抓着不放，那正是烦恼的根源呢。现在我用霓虹扇来跟大家比喻，这个就是霓虹扇，非常适合用来解释无我。这个霓虹扇有2片扇叶，扇叶上有小灯，你们看，当2片扇叶快速转动时，会出现一个圆，还有出现1到12点，长短针和秒针，变成一个时钟。佛经里旋火轮的比喻，我们现在的科技做得更具体，这可以解释什么呢？实际上没有一个时钟，时钟是快速生灭的暂留现象。我们这样看，还可以感觉这个时钟不太稳定。如果它转得比现在快100倍，我们就会觉得这里有个固定的时钟。你们知道这个风扇马达1秒钟大概只有10几到30几转，这几十转就形成视觉的假象。假设转一圈算1次生灭，那你们知道心1秒有多少生灭吗？
不清楚。
在《大安般若经》的序里面提到，弹指之间心有960生灭。在《人王经》的另一个说法是，一念有90刹那，一刹那呢有900生灭，也就是说一念就有81000生灭，那1秒钟就是324000生灭。更不可思议的是，在《菩萨处台经》里面提到，举手弹指之轻32亿100千年。我们不用管这些数字，重点是我们的心在那么快速的生灭变化中发展成了什么？我们在《楞严经》里可以找到答案。经文中说，众生不知色身，外际山河，碎空大地，闲是妙明真心中物。也就是说，这些看起来很坚固真实的身体、山河、虚空大地，都是妙明真心中产生的现象，但它动得太快，让我们觉得山河大地、身体、众生等等是这么的坚实不变。你看，几十转生灭可以造一个时钟，那千百亿生灭可以造出虚空、山河大地、众生，也就不足为奇了。而这个可以用来比喻一切唯心造。因此我们讲心包太虚，我们以为我在虚空世界里，事实上是虚空世界在我们的心里。
前面法师讲任务为己，这跟霓虹扇又有什么关系？
我们来看看，心造出虚空、山河大地、城市、众生，但是我们却颠倒，只取其中很小一部分现象为我，然后呢，觉得心是躲在身体里面，接着便以我的角度来看待所有一切，视野变得狭隘，原本心包太虚的心量变成身包妄心的心量，这个妄心就是我们的实心，正是烦恼的来源呢。
但这跟前面讲的过去的我已经消失，这又有什么关系？
以动为身，任务为己，用霓虹扇造成的时钟来看，就像整个时钟里面，我们把小小的秒针当成我，所以小秒针在大时钟里转动，如同小我在虚空的世界中移动。然后呢，这个在移动的秒针，我们一直认为是同一个，实际上我们认为非常真实的我是虚构出来的。三法印的诸法无我，我们也可以用这个霓虹钟来譬喻。 实际上，第一秒的灯亮，然后熄灭，接着第二秒的灯亮，然后熄灭，第三秒的灯亮，然后熄灭，如此不断循环下去，并非有个真实的秒针，从第一秒跑到第二秒，再跑到第三秒去。也就是说，实际上并没有一个实体的秒针在时钟里穿梭，也就是说，它有现象相续生灭的出现，但没有主体在这些现象当中穿梭。这个主体就是我们一直以为有个真实的我，实际上只是现象相续生灭的变化。所以前因后果的相续现象是有，曾发生，发生的当下便消失了，但我们却一直抓住，以为还在，所以重点是现象有，但没有主体的我。套回我们的经验上，我从左向右跨2步，我们以为是同一个人，实际上只是现象相续生灭变化，并没有一个不变的主体。
哦，所以开始法师问，从办公室过来的我跟在回答的我，哪一个是真正的我？答案是什么？
用霓虹扇比喻，实际上是要大家仔细的去观察，现象会生灭，但能产生现象的那个是什么？这必须靠自己用心。当你把过去的经验回忆当成自己，你能够练习到很快的放下，不管是平淡的事、痛苦、不愉快的经验，让它像空中鸟迹一样不留痕迹。但是当下能不断产生现象，具无限功能的那个究竟是什么？最后讲到，可以用话头、默照，还可以加上参究念佛的方法。如果我告诉你答案，那是没有用的。答案其实就在你自己的身上，必须靠你自己找出来。
众生的生命之持续是随时变迁的，它的主体看来似乎是一，实则是由许多不同的业力所感的事所显现。只要身心继续不断的活动，业力感染所成的事的内涵成分也跟着继续不断的变化。只要有我的观念的执着，就有业力熏成的事。到了无我，不受贪欲、嗔恚、无明愚智等烦恼心所动摇惑乱之时，业力的熏染便不存在，生命主体的事也就不存在了。此时称为转世成智，即是转凡夫为圣者。
啊？哦，这个不是麦克风，所以
现在要不要说看，我们的听众有没有马上有问题？
可以。
哎，国信法师那个要靠近一点才能录得好。刚才你把它弄低，要越靠近越好。
越靠近越好，对吧？好，好，这样可以吗？还是会靠近？
Yeah, but we'll teach that method tomorrow. No question? If how okay, Matt. Okay.
老师他问的是霓虹扇这个比喻是不是那个扇子就是轮回的现象
Yeah, yeah, right.
哦哦，
哎，他有哦这样子。
Have to repeat it in the microphone so that we can record.
Why did you not record that?
So he directly translated into Chinese instead of repeating in English.
Oh, I
so
see.
English speaker watch the video, don't know what your question is. Oh no, there's no way we can record that far. So
you want me to come up and ask it again?
No, he told me.
It's okay. I'll just repeat the question. So the question was whether the neon fan represents phenomena of samsara. Thanks.
Yeah. 没有错啊。
And the answer is correct.
If nobody has I'm gonna ask question, okay? Okay. Can repeat these questions.
I was wondering if answer to the nature of self was no self.
The question is whether the answer to the nature of self is no self. 发生了，就是
没有，你要换中文，我
OK
我才回答问题。
OK 就是解答自信的答案是不是无我？
他好像是讲说无我，那好像是
Can you ask your question one more time?
The nature of self
is not self.
If the nature of self is no self，自信是否是无我的？
对，这个其实讲是，我想对一般人来讲也没什么用。
So if we speak of consciousness, I would presume it's no use to common people.
Yeah，我还是要讲的比较清楚一点啊。我跟无我很容易混淆啊。那无我，那我是什么？
I want to be clear about this. The concept between self and no self leads to ambiguity, and we want to ask, what is self?
先要了解这个无我啊，本身是讲说没有一个主体的我，一个不变的我，一直在时空穿梭。就像刚才讲的说，我觉得我刚刚从 A 走到 B 啊，像我刚刚从那边走进来，我们觉得有个实体的东西走进来，这是大家的一般的看法。
So when we speak of no self, we're saying that there is no subject as I. There's no subject as permanent I. And there is not a entity that is traversing through time and space. Just like what you see from the video, or how I walked from there to here, there is not such a thing as an entity that possesses self.
就通常以我们的经验啊，等一下大家都会回家嘛，你会觉得我回家了，对不对？这个 这个应该是1000个人都会这么讲，我回家了。那好像这个我一般人是讲我的身体回家了，对不对？相关。
So from our daily experience, for example, when you return home later, you would say, "Now I am home." So when we say this, we mean that our body is home.
我还是要再说明一下，我们认为我这个身体，我们不觉得我这个身体消失了。比如说我这个身体在这边消失了啊，比如就我现在这边我坐着，那我站起来，坐着的身体消失了，然后一个站起来的身体出现了。我们不是，我们觉得我坐的身体移到站着，对不对？他说没有一个身体从坐着变成站着，没有，这个无我。
So when we observe our body, we don't see it as disappearing. If I should give an example, say when you change the position from sitting to standing, you don't describe this movement as the sitting self disappearing and the standing self appearing. You would describe it as the same body transition from the sitting position to the standing position. So when we speak of no self, that means there's no such a body transitioning from sitting to standing.
我可能再具体一点呢，这个一定要理清呢。我刚才讲的那个意思是说，我在这边消失了，在这边出现了，你们大家可能会以为碰到鬼，对不对？我刚才那个意思说，我们事实上是我这边消失了，那在这边出现一个。如果假如我可以消失哦，消失在那边出现，大家一定会很害怕，对不对？那刚才他讲的意思是，我这边消失了，在这边出现了。
所以刚才的意思是，
我现在讲说，我在这边消失了，不见了哦，接下来再怎么出来？
这是刚才的意思。
对，那大家一定会，当然你们相信吗
？So Fashi, when he was saying that the sitting self disappeared and the standing self appeared, you would think that he's a ghost. You would be afraid, and that's what he meant by that transition, disappearing and appearing.
然后再问一下，你们同不同意刚才那个意思说，我在这边消失了，来这边出现了
？Do you agree with that statement that the sitting self disappeared and the standing self appeared?
No, so no self. Yeah. Again.
Oh, why would you disagree? Just in general.
Because if there was no self to begin with, how can we say that there? Or wait, I think maybe I'm confused. Actually, in agreement, because it's like if there is not self, then there wouldn't be a self that was sitting, and there wouldn't be a self that was standing. So no, forgo no self.
是不是要翻成中文 ？Do we need to translate into Chinese? Everyone understand? 啊 ，We can just use English. OK， 那你就要重复一下他的，你不要重复，你就给他。
Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Basically, I wasn't sure if I was actually in disagreement or agreement, but the situation represents that there is not self because there is, I mean, it is crazy to think that there's like this arising and cessation of just a sitting self and a standing self. And we know that there isn't really a difference, but there isn't really a self. So to begin with, there was no sitting self and no standing self originally. I think that's it.
所以他 是说从一开始，因为知道了无我这个概念，就不会认为有一个坐着的我，然后自然也就不会有一个站着的我。
诶，他应该不是这个意思，不是坐着的我，是坐着的我这个现象是由，但是并不是一个实体的移过去。
So the phenomenon of a sitting self actually exists.
One minute. One second.
But there isn't the entity moving from the sitting position to the standing position.
You still have a question?
So, is self this obstruction that appears in essentially and covers or clouds this not self or no self? So like it doesn't start like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like not self is like the foundation, right? Is basically my question. Like, is not self our foundational being?
所以法师他刚才的问题是，是否自我，这种概念是覆盖于无我，这种基石上的一层一层东西。
好，那我干脆公布标准答案好了。
So法师 will declare the standard answer.
自我这个东西有一个真正的我，你先要先确立，而且就是有一个真正的我，那个真正的我是什么呢？它永远不会消失。那勉强说永远存在了哈，但是它永远不会消失。那它有两个特质啊，你们大家一定要记起来哈。它就是默照。我先这样讲哈，它就是默照。我们的心就是有两个成分，默跟照。这个真正的我是默跟照。
So this true self, what is it? It is something that never disappears, and it possesses two qualities. The first is silent illumination, so it is silence and illumination.
好，那我先把这个弄清楚啊，因为这个，真正的我你不搞清楚，你这样无我没什么用。
So we have to sort out this concept of true self before understanding the concept.
好，那现在来讲默照哦，我们现在用默跟照嘛，那其他的会讲叫做照，有时候那眼睛叫做明，默叫做空，或是无相不动，就是像虚空啊、哦。默是虚空，无相。照是能够明，等一下我们就来讲明的明是什么意思。
So silence and illumination, according to Shurangama Sutra, silence is emptiness. It is no form, and it is the empty space. Whereas Zhao, meaning illumination, uh, uh, is the English translation suggests its meaning is illumination. 明。
然后我来讲照或是明啊，你们现在在看我，你是用那个默照的那个真我，透过眼睛来明这个现象，透过耳朵来明这个声音，透过身体的身心来明身体，那个照或者明或者知，这一个功能永远都在的。
So when you are looking at me now, you are using your true self and the true self through your eyes illuminates me, through your ears hears the sound, and through your body feels the surface. And this function is the function of knowledge, function of knowing, and it's permanent.
这个照还有更多的功能哦，在我们的经验上哦，其实还可以什么？大概我们的经验上，你随时可以感受到它有3个功能。我们当下的经验呢，第一个，它能够勉强叫做出生是创造，这是第一个，出生让现象出生或创造现象都可以啊，这第一个。那第二个，你可以选择。那第3个可以辨识，我们在每个当下，我们都有这种功能，这是我们的经验啊。
So this function of Ming, function of illumination, possess more functions, has more utilities, and we can tell from our present experience, it has 3 functions. The first is to create, is to make phenomena arise, and the second is making choices, and the third is telling difference, identification.
那我当下可以举例，比如说我讲话，或是我思考，我们就以这2个就好了。当我讲话，我是不是要从我的记忆把我要讲的话挑出来，就选择，对不对？我有那么多话嘛，那我从我的记忆库挑出我要讲的话，对不对？然后让它变成声音，对不对？然后我又能够辨识，在讲话当中是不是都有这些功能
？One moment. So to give 2 examples, when we speak and when we think, these 3 functions are all there. When we speak, for example, we're picking up what do we want to say from our memory repository, and from there we pick up certain words and phrases and turn them into sound, and simultaneously we're also using our identification function to make choices in diction and understand.
然后再去想，比如说我想妈妈好了，对不对？你在想妈妈，你是不是要从很多东西去挑，把那个妈妈的像选择出来，对不对？第一个，然后你把妈妈的像挑选出来的时候，是不是妈妈的像就从无中生有，有没有？本来没想的时候没有嘛，一想妈妈的像跑出来，然后你还要辨识它，那就是我要的，是不是？
And the second example is thinking. When you say think of your mother, you would pick up from your mind the image of your mother, and in this process, you are giving rise to something that was non-existent. So you are making that image arise in your mind, and at the same time, you are also identifying that image.
那这样的一个功能从来不会消失，但是它无相。
And this function, these functions never disappear, but it possess no form.
大家请问大家有没有这种能力？
And I would like to ask everyone if you have these abilities.
如果没有来我这边认领呢？
If you don't have one, come to me, I'll give you one.
你们可以 disagree， 对不对啊？说你没有。
And you can disagree and say you don't have these functions.
法师讲的就是所谓的真心。
对。
And we want to make sure that what Fa Shi is explaining here is the concept of true self.
True mind.
True mind.
做真我，那yeah, 1, 2, yeah.
It's okay. I can repeat your question.
So he's been speaking about expounding upon your true self. It's kind of almost similar to what I've been contemplating with universal self. So I'm just been kind of stewing in my head since you started. Does that kind of have any type of correlation?
So the question is whether there is any correlation between the true self and the universal self. And whether the true mind is correlated with the universal mind.
再听不懂，但他们要那个，他们要讲说这个什么，就是宇宙的心嘛。
是。
或者说 ，universal self is a big self。No， 他们的宇宙的我，像他们就讲大我。
So when you speak of the universal self, you are saying a big self.
因为 the universal 就是那个宇宙的大我会消失。
Because the universal self would disappear.
还有第二个，宇宙的大我你是有一个对象的，有个宇宙被有感知，这是会生灭的。
And the second, the universal self has a subject, namely the universe, that perceives.
Explain. Okay, 郭信法师，我来帮忙解释一下。So when he says, so let's say we call the universal self as big self, okay? So he said, 你还对他有感知, that means you here, the one that knows, can proceed that there is a big self. So there's still a object and the subject. Subject is the one that knows. The knows the big self. So Venerable answer is no. When he says true mind or true self, it's not the same, as big self. So his answer is no. It's not the same, okay? And he explained the situation of so-called the big self. The reason is not the same as true self is because you still have a subject and object. It's dualistic. So the true mind is non-dualistic. So that's why his answer is no. Did I explain it correctly?
然后我再举一个例子，刚才就真我会大我，会小我，但是能够产生大我，能够产生小我。
The true self is neither the big self nor the small self, but the true self can give rise to both the big self and the small self.
Can you kind of elaborate on big self and small self, like ego?
我是觉得
好，小我就是说，我把身体这个小小的嘛，当成我们都会，对不对？我会把身体当成我会把感觉当成我，这感觉身体都是小小的，叫小我。
So when we speak of small self, we take for example, we take our body and our sense perceptions as self, and that is small self.
然后你打坐，你不抓小我，身体这个小我，不抓感觉，你 感知的范围变成大如虚空，可能就是无边的。如果是我们这一个，如果是无色界、无色定啊，是空定啊，我们叫空无边处。如果是空无边处，你的心感知到无边的大，那我们可以讲就是大我。
嗯
，unlimited emptiness。
So when we meditate, we don't grasp our corporeal sensations. Our realm of perception would therefore expand. It will expand to the degree of that can be compared to the entire empty space. That it can be boundless. And when we enter the dhyana, which is a level of meditation of endless endless emptiness and endless consciousness. That's just a term. When we enter that stage, our realm, our scope of perception would be boundless. Oh, I'm sorry. And that is the big self. And that's when we perceive the big self.
Yeah. 就是大我的同一心，它有点像是无量无边的波浪，它是波浪。那真我是那个海水。
Oh. Let me translate this quickly. No worries. So, 同一心是 unified mind. So the big self or the unified mind is boundless, and it can be compared to waves, whereas the true self can be compared to sea water.
Ocean.
I was just gonna say, it kind of sounds like the big self, almost like another form of liberation in the mind.
So the question is whether big self is liberation.
Maybe that wasn't the best word to use, but in a sense, like samadhi, you know, different.
Yeah, different level, yeah.
So yeah, I think he just explained the big self is like a stage of samadhi that you perceive. Yeah.
所以刚刚谁在问？还有谁？Yeah. 哦。
So the question was whether the no form that Fa Shi spoke of is I'm sorry, unconditional Dharma, unconditional phenomena, that which means the phenomena arising, the phenomenon that is not dependent on causes and conditions.
没有错，这一个刚才讲说什么无相，但无相也有两个了。我们现在先讲真心的无相，它是无为法。那个有为法是指现象面的，因缘所生法是指现象面的。那无为法是指它的本体。
So when we speak of unconditional phenomena, that refers to the true entity. When we speak of conditional phenomena, that refers to phenomena. Okay.
这样可以吗？不是现象，是一个体跟一个用，产生用就有种种的现象。那应该是你要先翻译他的问题。
抱歉，问题能再问一遍吗？
对，一个现象的两面。
The question was whether conditional phenomena, or use conditional dharma and which one is better? Use conditional dharma and unconditional dharma. Whether these two are the two sides of the same phenomena. And to which Fashi explains 刚才提用有
对。
他刚才问的是无相是不是无为法，对不对？
他是讲说他是不是现象的两面，
后来才问说是不是一体的两面。
他不讲一体，他是现象的两面。
现象两，所以他前面那个问题跟后来又改了这个问题。
他是讲现象的两面，他不是现象的两面。
OK。
So there was some confusion. I think the question firstly asked was whether no form was was equal to can be equal to unconditional dharma, and the second question was that whether conditional dharma and unconditional dharma, these are just two terminologies, are this two sides of the same phenomena.
那我要用就是如果要讲一体的两面就 OK 了，但是现象的两面就不对了啊。这个是 Plato 嘛哈，这个就是黏土，对不对？黏土假如本身无相，但它可以捏出种种的相，对不对？假如我的手掌，
好像第一句是它一体两面是错的，就是
它的现象的两面是错的。
这两个有什么区别？How do we okay? 一体两面。So if we say same thing but two sides, that description is correct. But if we say two sides of the same phenomena, that description is incorrect. And Fashi used the example of clay to illustrate the relationship between no form and form. So clay itself doesn't possess any form, but it can give rise to various forms.
好，这个黏土，有时候我们叫它本质，或是本体啊体啊。
要怎么翻这个体？现在就是说这一体的两面，你刚刚没有翻这个一体的两面那个体啊。
我是
真心就是这个体，就是我们翻成 essence 好了。
我是用 entity
不行，改成 essence。他现在就是要讲这个体相用，所以呢，先讲这个体
essence，
所以 use essence。对，然后 essence 本身是真心，然后其他的现象 phenomena 是妄心，所以
因为它是功能。现象不是妄心。
一体的两面，他讲到体，你就单独用一个字，就用 essence。All right, we're trying to get the terminology correct, so you can be consistent.
Yeah, we'll be consistent. Okay.
你现在在讲这个是一体啊，
这个体就是它的本质，那本质跟现象，你才能够讲说一体的两面。体的本质它无相，那产生作用就产生现象，它是同个东西，有没有？我这怎么捏都是 都是连土嘛，对不对？但是那一层，然后我这个连土，对不对？假如说手是连土，对不对？它是连土，它是无相，它是体，但是把那一层手掌的现象，我们叫做功能，体相用叫做功能。所以这一个相，就是这个体跟相，也是一体的两面，本质是体，然后用是现象，所以这一体的两面。你说它是现象也可以，说它是什么？说它是那个什么？有时候我们叫用黄金啊，它这个造型，这个外形啊，是手掌的那个造型或者现象，而它本质也是什么黄金，对不对？又是黄金，又是手掌的造型，有没有？所以它也可以讲一体的两面。
一体两面，我们用 one essence to sides, two sides of the same essence.
Yeah, two sides of the
Okay. All right, I'll try to translate this. So yeah, more on the two sides of the same essence. So when we speak of this dichotomy between essence and phenomena, the essence is in itself no form, but it can produce phenomena. So the take the clay,
既是现象，也是本体。
So take the clay, for example, it is simultaneously the essence and the phenomena. 我差不多and 法师 also use the
手，所以手的手掌根就是假如就是连土嘛，即使手掌的形状，手掌的形状是现象，就是手掌的形状是现象，对不对？但是手掌这一个现象也是黄金或是连土。
So if we make the clay into a palm shape, that shape is a phenomenon, but it's also an essence, that the essence of the thing that it is made of can be gold, can be clay, can be anything.
老师刚才拿的这一个粘土，
对，
你说这是它的体，
对，
然后你接下来下一句是它是无相，
对
，OK，
对，
但是所有的人看到它都有相啊，我知道，所以我现在要请你解释为什么明明是一个体，大家都看得到，为什么你说它是无相？要解释一下。好，我们是看到它的现象嘛，比如说你把它捏一个手，捏个什么都看得到，那是它的现象。但是那个粘土为什么是无相的？
So the question is, when Fashi says that the clay is an essence and it possesses no form, everyone here can see it actually does possess a form, and that's why we can see it. So why would Fashi say that the clay is no form? The essence is no form.
好，我们不用这种比喻很难形容因为我们世间这个黄金也好，或是粘土也好，或是海水也好，都有相，对不对？那为了叙述这一个海水跟波浪的关系，或是黄金跟各种造型、金器的造型，为了描述，你就可以知道，它果然是什么？比如说黄金那层手掌，你说黄金是什么形状？它没形状啊。但是对我们来看，我们觉得它还是有的东西。其实应该讲说是虚空，就虚空变成手掌。但是我们的经验上，我们很难说我虚空变成手掌，对不对？那我们的 无相的心要变成手掌，就要拉到刚刚那一个叫无中生有，刚刚讲的那一个真心变成虚空，那个波又要重讲。
So by responding to Iris' question, if we don't use, oh, I'm sorry, if you don't use the clay as an example, it's very hard to explain the concepts. So whatever we use as examples, we can use ocean and waves. We can use gold and its various forms. It will lead us to the same dilemma. So if we ask what shape is gold, we would come to no conclusion. The actual answer would be that it is empty space transforming into palms and other various shapes. Yes, that's all I have.
Based on what you've said, it sounds as if true mind is the clay in this metaphor, and the shape is our perception of self or perception of phenomenon that we, see the shape of the clay as a palm or as a hand, and that's
project. Sometimes we say create.
So but the true nature we don't necessarily see in this metaphor, but the shape of it we do see, and the shape is the small self in this case.
Ah, 法师，这个也需要翻译吧？
对，要翻译。
所以刚刚的问题是想把刚才讲过的几个概念给联系起来。当法师用粘土做比喻的时候，法师讲粘土是体，这个体是无相的。但我们看到的这个东西，这个形状是现象，是有相的。然后他最后有联系到小我。现象就是小我。
No.
So the phenomena, the shape is not the small self.
因为现象也可以大我。
Because phenomenon can also be the big self.
Okay. So I wanted to make sure that we're keeping our topics like on target. So we watched the video. Now we're talking about, what are we talking about now is the true self or true mind, right? Because in the video, it says that there is a erroneous, what was the other one you used? Deluded mind and true mind. So all this time we're talking about is trying to understand what is the true mind, okay? So when Venerable used the analogy of the clay, he's saying that, okay, here's the true mind and the deluded mind. That's what he's trying to say, okay? So when he's saying, I keep trying to make sure that we connect the translation, the essence. So the essence is the true mind. And then there's this phenomena, okay? So I just wanted to kind of make ourselves to know that where we are. And then when I ask why we can see the clay, but you say it's no form, Venerable quickly said, no, we need to go back to the video. So I'm going to ask him to connect my question that why the clay, you say no form. He said that in order to explain that, we have to go back to the video. 所以我刚刚解释说我的这个问题啊，我说如果是讲到性的话，你必须要再回到这个霓虹灯的这个 video。我们现在想要把我们为什么看那个 video， 就是想要把去理解嘛，你要把你现在讲的东西跟 video 两个连起来， 就是你现在讲的这个，就是它的体性的这个性哈，跟你刚刚讲的那个，麻烦你把它解释一下。OK。All right, I asked him to explain and connect the video, the neon light, and what is the nature of the essence.
我还是先讲到我们大家当前的经验嘛，我们都有明，我刚才讲明嘛，明，跑到眼睛叫看嘛，耳朵叫听嘛，但它无相，这个你随时随地都有，你睡觉也不会消失，你死了也不会消失。
So, Fashu would like to begin with our immediate experiences. For example, illumination, as we have spoken of. This function of illumination or perception is with you all the time, even when you are sleeping, and even after your death, it's always there.
对对，明是感知也可以，或是思考，就反正它有很多，它有感知。
我刚刚一直是用的 illumination。
We call it awareness.
Applying
awareness.
Okay.
It uses a special term, and Venerable likes to use that term, mean. But in essence, in translating, you translate it into illumination, but it really means, he also said it means knowing or knowledge. So the ability to know, the nature of the ability to know. This is the core concept in Shurangama Sutra. So when you translate the mean, you can translate illuminating. But he's like, I'm illuminating you. That means I'm looking at you, the ability to see and to know you. 这个是名. So it got me really confused because in Chinese, the word is not used elsewhere. So when he said 他讲名啊，就是感知的能力 ability.
好，那我们这一个有感知、能明，有无量光能明、能看、能听、能思考，它永远不会消失，但它无相。那它产生我们现在的我们的经验上有山河大地，还有虚空。那楞严经会讲说，为什么会变现出这一些我们现前的山河大地，还有我们这些身体，它有它的过程，它是如何变起来的？
So I think we just need to establish the association between the word illumination in Chinese, Ming, and the ability to know and perceive. So that ability is always there, is permanent, and it possesses no form. It gives rise to various phenomena such as mountains, rivers, earth, and empty spaces. And Suragama Sutra explains how and why does this illumination giving rise to various phenomena.
你们可以大概也可以看一看从来没有一个现象是离开你这个能感知的真心，从来没有。
And you can see for yourself that there has never been a phenomenon that is away from this illumination, this perceiving entity.
也就是他们讲说，离心是没有现象的，离心无法。
And that's why they say, without the mind, there wouldn't be any phenomena.
这里面我甚至都很想讲量子，你们知道吗？量子其实是 其实是真心的一种最初的功能，可能不见得是最初的功能。量子，他们现在我们研究叫量子啊。那我从楞严经来讲，它不见得是最初的功能。等一下我来讲quantum。
Quantum, okay.
quantum.
So later we'll talk about quantum, and according to Suragama Sutra, it is not our first or initial function.
我去年诺贝尔奖物理奖一个得主那他就发表一个言论就是说我们的意识，我们死了以后，我们的意识会随着量子，然后什么散布在宇宙中。他们现在的目前的这样的理论得到诺贝尔，2022得到诺贝尔奖，那我是觉得好笑了。
And last year, quoted by Fasher, the physics Nobel Prize winner says that when we die, our consciousness would be dispersed through quantums, dispersed into the universe with the quantums. And Fasher find this statement to be funny.
因为在楞严经有讲到一部分，我也是非常的下课他说物质我们原子最早发现原子是把一个物体切割为二，变成1/2，再切割为二变成1/4，再切割为1/8，一直切到最后就是什么原子，对不对？现在切割可能是变成量子，对不对？可楞严经讲说切割到最后是虚空
Okay. Okay. So according, take the example, take atom, for example. We get to atom, we discover atom through cutting a substance over and over again, from half to a quarter to an eighth, and all the way down to an atom. And what's below atom, now we may say it's quantum. But according to Suragama Sutra, when we get to the last point, when we continue with this cutting process, to the last, we'll reach empty space.
那这个还比较容易，他后面一个我个人就吓呆了他说把你物质的东西切到最后变成虚空，容易了解，对不对？可是呢，他就问一个问题：假设原子它是用微尘那火星的另一个名称呢，极微就是相当于也是质子好了或是量子好了。他就问一个问题：几个虚空变成一个量子？
最后一句话几个？
你要把几个虚空虚空怎么几个虚空会变成量？就是有变成虚空容易了解，对不对？那几个虚空变成一个，现在讲到什么
？OK，
变成要几个虚空才能够变成一个量子？对。
哦，能源经问这个问题。So it is not too hard for us to understand the part of Suragama Sutra when it says that when you cut a substance all the way to the smallest, it will reach empty space. That's not too difficult to understand. But another question, however, raised by Suragama Sutra is more difficult to comprehend. That is, how many empty spaces will lead to a quantum, will be gathered so that it can form a quantum, or whatever the smallest atom, the particle we know.
来，我现在玩一下 虚空就是这样造出来的。
So this is how the empty space is lightened up or illuminated, created. Okay, was created. So
就是虚空，就是真空。假设这一个是什么？这个是就真空，或是这个是真心，或者刚才是真我。那它无相，它一直转一直转，就变成一个无相的什么，已经消失的源泉，叫做亡空。
亡是死亡，
就是不是顽固的顽。
亡空。Nihilistic. Okay. So take the flashlight for example. If we treat it as the true self, the true mind, it possesses no form. But if we keep spinning it, we will get a circle without form, and that is nihilistic emptiness.
所以我们在你们可能有看到一本书啊，《Shutter the Emptiness》，就打破虚空啊，虚空没有要怎么打破？我们在画头的时候要打破虚空，才真正的见性。实际上，打破虚空就是你的心去感知，有对象的感知停下来，虚空就会消失。
心去感知，然后
啊，
最后一句
就是你去，我们的心通常是有对象的感知，对不对？你要把这个有对象的感知把它停下来，那个虚空就消灭了。
哦，好，停下来。Okay. So there's a book called Shatter the Emptiness, but how can we do that? How can we shatter the emptiness, quote unquote? In Huatou method, it's 打破见性是吧？
就打破虚空。
打破虚空。In Huatou method, Huatou method, we aim to shatter the emptiness, and we do that through dropping off the subject of our perception. So when your mind perceives something, there always exists an object to be perceived. And to shatter the emptiness is to stop having that object in your perception.
So 刚才你说有一个感知，你能感知一个虚空，而且你称它为完空，对不对？就表示说，在你讲到的这个虚空啊，还是一个有能所的虚空，还是所以你才叫它完空，对吗？Okay, translate myself. Okay. I asked him because he said earlier the emptiness, he said he's spinning the true mind and creates a nihilistic emptiness. So I asked him, and then later he said, the shattering the emptiness means that you will no longer perceive there's such a thing as emptiness. Therefore, you diminish the subject and object become absolute, right? So I asked him, according to his lecture, then this emptiness that he calls nihilistic emptiness still is not a true mind because it still has a subject and object, right? Because he's saying that that you can still perceive such thing as emptiness. So you have to, by the time you shatter the subject and object, shatter the perceiving of the emptiness, that's when it's called why there's such a thing as why is emptiness can be shattered, because you're still having this perceiving mind. So I am asking him that when he say nihilistic emptiness, that means it's still on a dualistic stage. Okay.
这里面可能简单的就是我们在讲主 subject object 啊，就是主客啊，其实它是两念或是两个生灭啊，两念也可以啊。那一个时间只有一念而已。譬如说你在这样子哈，可能可以几亿几兆生灭，但是它永远只有当下只有生，只有一个生灭，不可能有两个生灭，一个当下。这个要先进来。那前面生灭，前面这一念消失，才能够产生第二念。那前面你觉得还在，它消失了，但你觉得还在，它就变成 object。后面这一念就变成 subject。我们 subject 是这样产生，当下只有一念，不可能有两念。前一念已经消失，觉得它还在，然后就变成这个什么？有没有已经消失的圆圈？
前念后念，明天
我们要对，但是先明天再讲没关系，但是先预告。
Okay. So this is a preview for tomorrow's lecture. When speak of subject and object, it represents two 念是怎么翻译？ two thoughts, two arising and perishing, two sets of arising and perishing, because you can only have one thought at a given time. So even we do this, millions and trillions of thoughts may arise and perish, but at any given moment, there can only be a single set of arising and perishing. It can never be a double one. So when we going back to the subject and object, this dichotomy arises when our former thought disappear. 这个其实我还没有太搞明白，就是后面前面还在，
你觉得前面还在，前面已经消失，你觉得还在？
你觉得还在，这个时候就主客就来了。
对，主客是这样形成的。
How the subject and object arise is when your previous thought already disappeared, but you think that it's still there. It's that's how the subject arise.
怎么讲？就是课题，前面已经消失，觉得还在，就变成课题。第二念对前面那一念就变成主体。
So this dualism of subject and object. When the previous thought disappear, but you think it's still there, that thought becomes object, and the following thought, that namely the thought that takes the previous thought as still existing, that later thought becomes subject.
Yeah. 哇，三个。
So true mind waits for my true mind mode that repeller, and then we had the images that were arising in from that from the propeller / true mind of the numerals and the second hands and
yeah. 问题啊，不是，它不是问题啊。啊，你看，我就是说
You need to repeat his question.
Yeah, Alan, could you just repeat your question in a more succinct way?
So in the movie Neo Lights, the I wanted to make the distinctions between what was true mind and what was the phenomena arising. And in that particular movie, it seemed that true mind was the propeller itself, and that the things arising in it, the numbers that appear, the moving hands, those are all phenomena arising within that true mind.
Okay, all right. So the question is on the distinction between the true mind and phenomena, linking back, linking back to the video we just watched. So Alan is asking whether the propeller in the neon fan can be understood as the true mind, whereas the phenomena such as the clock and the clock arising from the fan's rotation is phenomena.
Right.
Okay, so okay, is there another question? Okay. Okay, first let me translate because he's busy. So Jin is asking, talking about the thoughts before and the thought following. So we know that they are arising and perishing and they're actually not connected, but we think they're connected, right? But why we think it's connected? Because there is a continuous. So in the term, there's a called a 相续心, that means continuous mind. Although they are individually not connected, but there is a continuity there. So her question is, what makes this continuity going on? Like why, our mind never stops. There's the thoughts, they actually are individually separate. But why is there that we feel there's this continuity? And where does continuity come from? 这个相续性从哪里来的？
问得很好，其实整个内眼经的中心就讲这一个。
So that's a very good question. Actually, that's what's Shurangama Sutra primarily is primarily concerned with.
就是你们记住这一个啊，你所有的，不是事而已。业力的老板是无明。
The boss of karmic forces is ignorance.
那无明的老板是真心，或是妙明啊，妙明真心，或是真我。
And the boss of ignorance is the true mind.
然后真心真心像灯一样像灯或者像太阳，可以照，可以明，可以照，但它是无相。所以我们中国字的智慧我们中国智慧弄得非常好，智慧就是知，下面有个日，有没有？太阳的照。
So our 最开始是什么？把什么比作灯？
就是说我们的心比作灯，它能够照明。
So our true mind can be compared to a light or the sun, it is illuminating while possessing no form. And in the Chinese character wisdom, 智, illustrates this trait very well, because in that character you have the character of 知, to know, on the top, and the character of 日, the sun, at the bottom, and combined together, it's wisdom.
就是智慧，我们的心像太阳普照，但是它是没有对象的照，像灯光这样子。
So our mind is like sun illuminating, but it doesn't have an object to illuminate on. It's like this light.
好，那现在我们的心都一直像太阳或者像灯光可以照，是任何时间都没有对象的照。先懂这一个啊，你的心永远在这种状态。
So the first thing to understand is our heart, our mind is like a light that is always illuminating without an object.
然后你今年有好几种讲法啊，楞严经是以为你的心要造一个东西，那就完蛋了。
Shurangama Sutra says, if you think there is an object to your illuminating mind, there would be a problem.
不是 problem 了，就是从前完蛋了
啊。Then you're doomed.
就叫无明。
And that's ignorance.
你的那个心本来无所不造的，但是你要造的时候就变成有对象的造，那就完蛋了。从此我们的世间就是这样子而已。
So originally your mind is illuminating everywhere without an object, but if you grasp onto an object, then you're doomed, and that's how your universe is limited to this stage.
你看看哦，我们随时随地没有一个人不是想要知道，如果没事，你就会恐慌、无聊，有没有
？So each and every one of us is always seeking something to do, and if you don't have anything to do, you would get bored.
哎，就这样子，这一个我的心，你没事找事做，对不对？
So that's your mind, right? You are looking for things even if you have no business to attend to.
所以这里面禅宗就直接从这边切下去，但是里面有很多观念要厘清。
什么切下去？
禅宗从这一点切进去的，他就是从这一点切进去的。
So the Chan school cut through this point deeply, but within it there are many concepts to be clarified.
就是默照啊、画头啊，还有那个炼火禅、参究炼火禅，都是直接有这样的照你缓文，就这样子而已。往外你再缓照。
从外面这个。
往外的，现在往内照。
Okay. So the method in Chan schools, such as silent illumination, 画头, and reciting Buddha,
investigate, 参究念佛，
investigating. So reciting and investigating the Buddha, this methods all aims at reflecting back to yourself, that introspection.
就是你这个业力啊，这样就是无名的老板呢、无名的老板呢，就是罪恶，罪恶就是无名的老板。你想要知道，
罪恶是无名，
罪恶的老板呢？
罪恶的老板是无名。
对呀。
Okay, so
对。
The crime. Okay, the boss of all the crimes is ignorance. Right. Oh, because you want to know. Oh, okay, and that is ignorance.
所以禅宗有很好玩的哈， 它有2个比喻，叫做知道的知，或是 awareness。这一个知啊，是一切众妙所有无量无边的功能都是这一个知。这是一种讲法，知一字，知这个字啊，是所有太棒的功能都是这一个字，这是第一个。另外，知这个字是所有的众恶都从这个字跑出来的。不，知一字，不是知一字，这个字啦，知这个字啦，知这一个字，字啊，我不想字，就是字典的字啦，生字的字，有没有？
知一字。
我以为是他这样讲的，知一字。
知
这个字
知这个字啦。众妙之门还是众恶之门呢
？Okay, yeah. So it's not that hard. Awareness or 知 is both the origin of all the miracles.
Wondrous function.
Wondrous functions. It possesses unlimited functions. All the functions are contained in that awareness, but at the same time, it is also the origin of all the crimes. I think that's it.
众恶对
，unwholesome deeds, crimes or unwholesome deeds.
罪恶是 crime 吗？呀，对，就跟基督教啊，对，他。it was, yeah.
Yeah.
So since the
Yeah.
topic, okay, so basically,
Yeah.
Since our topic tonight is about like the diluted mind and the true mind, and then we spend like most of the time discussing like what the qualities of true minds are, and then my question would just be what's the difference between the perceptive abilities or ability of perception possessed by a diluted mind and those of the true mind? Is that the perceptive ability of the diluted mind a subset of like what you call the illumination, which is possessed of by the true mind? 我可以自己翻译，就是关于就是您法师您说的这个今天晚上的所谓的真心和妄心之间的这个区别。然后我想问的是这个妄心它所对应的这个识的这些功能和真心所对应的这些识这些功能，它们的关系是什么？然后妄心它是不是就是这个真心您所提到的这些广大无边的这些功能的一个子集？
好，大概可能你的问题也不是很清楚啊。妄心是真心的一个受限的功能，很受限制的。对。
So the deluded mind is the true mind with restricted functions.
就像电脑电脑有无量无边的功能，对不对？但是我只会用 Word 跟 Excel， 其他不会用，不用。
Just like a computer, it has a myriad of functions, but I only know how to use Word and Excel.
然后妄心就刚才讲的，就是你想要知道一个对象，就变成很受限的功能，我们把它叫做虚妄。因为你想要知道，那就会有一个被你知道的幻象，或是虚妄的相会生灭，不会生灭的 真心就变成好像有东西会生灭，所以叫做妄。
So the deluded mind comes from the desire to know an object, an external object. And when you have that desire, you would generate a um, a mirage of object being known, and that's where the deluded mind comes from.
这样有没有回答你？
Does that answer your question?
Is true self fit? What other phenomenon are also true self?
所以这个真我是指人还是指其他的现象？
不是，应该真我所有的人、狗、动物，乃至于微生物、细菌，乃至于 virus 啊？没有没有，有辨识能力乃至植物里面都有真心，因为植物也有神。我们先不要讲那个，至少细菌、细胞，它们都有心，这个心都是全部都是就真我。
So the true self exists in all the plants, animals, not just humans, animals, plants, microorganisms, cells. This objects, well, this they are encompassed into the true self because they all possess Shen spirit. They all possess spirit, and because they have a mind, they belong to the true self.
然后呢，所有的现象不可能离开心有现象。
And all the phenomena, they can't arise without a mind.
所以开悟的人全部都是心，没有现象。
So all the awakened, they only have a mind, but no phenomena.
或者是说，如果现象就是波浪啊，我们大海里面有无量无边的波浪嘛，所有的波浪，波浪是现象，对不对？所有的波浪都是海水。
It's the same if we use the analogy of ocean and waves. All the waves would disappear, and what's left is the ocean.
disappear. 所有的波浪，没有一个波浪不是海水。
All the waves, 没有一个波浪不是。There is no wave that is not the ocean itself.
Right? 那个 ocean 就是真心。
And that ocean is true mind.
所以我们心经就是什么？色就是空，空就是真心。色即是空，受即是空，想即是空，讲真的一大堆。那接下来讲说真心就是空性里面什么都不是，有没有？
So that's what we find in the Heart Sutra, that forms are nothing but emptiness, thoughts are emptiness, actions,
sensation,
possession, and so on and so forth. And later it's the Heart Sutra that 后面一个是什么？
就所有的那个真心什么都不是，有没有？说什么真心里面没有什么，没有色受想行识，没有什么什么什么都没有，有没有？
Yeah, so true mind is devoid of form,
什么苦集灭道什么一大堆都没有，有没有？心经有没有？全部都不是。
Right. So the Heart Sutra poses a lot of negations of Buddhist concepts such as the four, the five skandhas,
还有那12因缘，五集灭道
all in Sutra.
哦，好。
We also.
The metaphor of the no, there's not a single wave that is not the ocean.
Yeah.
This is supposed to represent there is no thing that is not mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to clarify. That was like
这个要翻译啊，就是说，当法师说，没有一个波浪不是海的时候，他是说，就是没有一个东西不是心，
对，没有一个现象不是心，
没有一个现象不是心。
对。
So I have a question for Venerable. Earlier, Brandon asked, "What is true self?" Right, and then the Venerable answer, "Anything that has ability to perceive is true self, even the little germs, whatever." So 他刚刚问法师的时候，法师说，从大到细菌到只要能感知的能力的，都是真我哈。那刚才郭心法说，一切唯心所造嘛，唯心所造的话，除了有感知能力的之外，山川大地，你不叫他真我，你叫他什么？
他开悟的人叫真我，开悟的人全部是真我，他们叫全忘即真。
对，但是我刚刚郭心法师回答的时候，只包括了能够感知的，就包括。
因为先从真心嘛，就是像心经，应该你问的问题要换成英文。
Oh yeah. So, and do you want to translate? Or I can do it. It's okay. So Eris asked the question. So when we earlier we said that the animals, plants, etc., they all belong to the true mind. And how about for the inanimate objects such as rivers, mountains, earth, so on and so forth? Are they also included in the true mind? That was the question.
He says everything is made by the mind.
Oh yeah, because he said.
So rivers, mountains are not true self. So that was my question.
好，开悟的人，所有的 river 什么东西，山河大地都是真心。然后没有开悟的人，这一个山河大地都不是真心。为什么呢？因为它已经消失了，或是说，我们一般人看到大地，我可能应该讲说，开悟的人同时看到现象跟不动的心跟真心，然后没开悟的人只看到现象，没有看到现象本身是真心，所以叫做虚妄。
Okay, let me just translate. Eris said it didn't answer her question, but we'll translate it anyway. So for the enlightened ones, all are the true mind, including the inanimate object. But for the unawakened ones, when they the inanimate objects such as rivers and mountains are not the true mind. And why is that? Because the awakened ones, when they see the phenomena, they see the phenomena themselves and the true mind behind it simultaneously. Whereas for the unawakened ones, when they see phenomena, they only see the phenomena themselves without seeing the true mind.
我的问题是，刚才他在问什么是真我的时候， 郭兴法是指包括那些能感知、能山川大地，你说不是真我，对不对？那你刚才回答的时候是说开悟的人怎么怎么样，没有开悟的人怎么怎么样。
对，
那你现在回答他的那个是针对开悟的人，还是针对不开悟的人？ How about that first?
So the reason why Eris didn't think that Fasha answered the question because Fasha only addressed the distinction between the difference seen by the awakened ones and unawakened ones. So when Fasha was responding to Brendan's question, is speaking from a perspective of unawakened ones or the awakened one.
这里面又要谈出很多问题来啊。因为对开悟的人来讲，我们全部的人都早就开悟了，都一直在开悟的状态。
And that leads to a lot of questions because for a awakened person, when they sees us, sees everyone here, they see us as all enlightened beings.
那我还是用电脑的比喻啦啊，我整天就打 Word 跟 Excel 档嘛。那我的电脑有没有那个其他无量无边的功能？有啊。那勉强叫做叫没有悟啦。其实你没有用，你依然那些功能都没有失去。那开悟的人只是告诉你，说他发觉他有无量无边的功能，那告诉你，那你不信啊？但是你有没有失去？没有啊。
So this take the same analogy of the computer. Even though Fashu only used Word and Excel in his computer, doesn't mean that the computer doesn't possess all the other myriad of functions. The fact that he doesn't use those functions, doesn't indicate that those functions are lost. It's the same for an enlightened person when they discover that the mind possesses boundless functions, and they tell you this, you may disbelieve in what they say, but it doesn't mean that your mind is without those myriad of functions.
也就是说，你现在电脑比较容易明白。我事实上我是知道它有很多功能，可是我们一般人他会以为我的电脑只有2个功能而已。那我们现在的人也是认为啊，我只有能看，有没有？是你是我一天会死。你不会知道，其实你真正的你绝对不会死。
So just like some people may believe that there are only 2 functions, Word and Excel, to a computer, it is the same for a person that believes that the only functions we possess are the function to see, hear, speak, etc. And someday will die. It is because they didn't realize the true self never dies.
不是，我们一般人，我们叫 Excel、Word 是很受限的功能嘛。那我们现在也是一样，我们把身体当成我，把想法当成我，就这几个功能而已嘛。其实你若是不要把身体当成我，不要想法是当成我，你就有无量无边的功能。但是我们一般人晓不晓得？不晓得，你并没有失去，对不对？那你有天来听我以后，哇，懂了，修莫招，你可能就能够把那个无边的功能发挥。那些人，年轻人会不会相信他有无量无边的功能？不会相信的。他认为他会死，没有，你的佛性怎么会死？
So right? Just like some people believe that there are only two functions to the computer, some people may believe that these corporeal abilities we possess, ability to think, to reason, etc., are the only functions we have. This is because they didn't see they didn't uncover their boundless potential, uncover their true mind. It's like we're sitting here and listening to this Dharma talk, and you hear it, you believe it, and you practice accordingly, and you eventually realize your boundless capabilities. But for someone who doesn't come to this lecture and doesn't practice, when you tell them, hey, you have this amazing faculties to yourself just within you, they perhaps wouldn't believe in that, and they believe that they will die, and without recognizing that they have a permanent true self that is not dying.
他不是 some people 啊 ，most of people don't believe。没呀，有了是吧？时间到了是吧？那时间到了是吧？是不是？对哦，那要回去了对。哦好。That's your duty.
So, before we finish, we transfer our merits of our practice to all the session. So tonight, we are understanding what is true mind and what is erroneous mind. That's how I translate. So if we don't understand, tomorrow evening we continue. So today we're using the neon light as an analogy. Tomorrow night is the thought and then the following thought, and using that to cut into this philosophy again. So tomorrow we'll do more, tomorrow night we'll do more understanding, but someone wanted to learn silent illumination, which is tomorrow morning we will, okay? We're gonna give out the transferring of 叫做
没有包什么？Yeah, I know that. Maybe, yeah, okay.
观世法师，你要不要带？
可以啊，可能
第6页，
我知道，
在这里。OK，郭兴，
对
Venerable Guo-Xing will lead.
Yeah, we pray for the flourishing of Buddha Dharma, for peace in the world, for the joy and contentment of all people, for the freedom and ease of body and mind. May sentient beings depart from suffering. May the vows of the donors be fulfilled. Pass. 然后要拜我是吧？没关系，补六拜啊，没关系啊，那现在没关系，
occasion.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Do you want to give? Should I just go ahead and do it? Face each other.
One more home message.
那个最后结束的，今天也要，每天都要嘛。Okay, one more from Master Sheng Yan. Bow. Okay, please face each other. Bow.
Goodbye.
Yes, please tidy up your. Yeah, pretty good. And then we'll see you tomorrow. The seat is already taken. Put your towel on top of your cushion. Yeah. And tomorrow, 9 o'clock, we start with the HI movement.